All right, so we are. So you're in home for a change, and I am in beautiful San Jose. I got to visit with Mr. Brian Kramer, our buddy, Mr. H to H, who is actually on stage right now talking about his book and more. But always fun times, and it's fun. We've been doing this show every Friday, and Friday works interesting for both of us because I think each one of us have been in a different place. I don't think we've been in the same place 2 weeks in a row yet, which is I think the essence.
I don't think we have, but like you, I love it being Friday. I love that we kind of get to talk at the end of the week that we're, look, a lot of us work 24/7. Someone said to me, "Oh, enjoy your time off," because I said I was coming home today and not leaving until Monday. But there's still a very big difference between weekends and weekdays. Weekday, no matter what, there's tons of income.
Oh, no, it's not for yours.
Oh,
it's for Philip. No.
Hey, listen, you tell those guys at their big conference that you're busy with us. And they got to leave you alone. But I was just saying that, I love that this is on Friday because regardless of whether you're a 24/7 guy, or you work through the weekends, whatever, weekends is still different. Weekends, you don't have the same incoming that you have. Like, I always know Saturday and Sunday morning, I don't have to worry about waking up to that onslaught of incoming that I get during the week. So working, it's a much more relaxed time. And I love that we get to kind of wind down together. We get to do, I think in another week or two, if and when we're in the right places, we've got to start making this into a hour.
I couldn't agree more.
And, cheering it up for the weekend and, discussing like that. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about, hey, Victoria, did you just join us? How are you? So excited to talk about online, offline, kind of your take on the two together. And let's make sure that we bring in some really cool people this week.
Hi.
Hey,
how you doing?
I got to tell you, Brian, I'm feeling very missed. I'm feeling very left out. I know I get little texts. I call you on the phone. I get texts back. You're like my daughters.
I actually called you back yesterday. I just didn't leave a message because I don't like leaving voicemails. It just seems so hard to connect. But I want to talk to you soon, and I'm glad that we could have this moment publicly.
I want to tell you something.
I have to go, unfortunately, because I'll text you. I will text you, though. I will text you. I love you. I'll text you. Hey.
Oh man, no let up right there. He's a celebrity, He has to go.
I know he's a celebrity, but
tell people waiting to sign his book.
He's got to buy some new clothes.
Yeah, he does. Like, hey, I'm no better. I have 10 different versions of plaid. So so today we've been talking about all kinds of different things, and your book, Return on Relationships, was something that was resonating with me the other day when someone was talking to me about that they didn't really need to connect with a digital audience because they were focused on their offline audience. And I think it kind of played into a lot of, you and I speak at a lot of events. We work with a lot of sides. And I think, kind of discussing that, I would love to, we're going to bring people on video and hear different people's thoughts and kind of conversations on what they see and how that's kind of worked in their life. Because I know for you, being the greatest compliment I can get from anyone is always when someone says, holy crap, you're the same guy you are online as you are offline. To me, that's an amazing, but there are a lot of people that kind of not only underestimate that, but they discount that because maybe they start offline first and they discount that they even need to connect. So I think it's kind of a great topic, and we'll see where it goes for the hour.
Well, first of all, I want to say one thing that when you jumped off before, I was saying that we're going to try to bring on a lot of different people. We want to get a lot of viewpoints. We want to give a lot of people FaceTime. And by the way, if you do come on and you start talking too long, we're going to cut you off. So just making you aware. But I want to make a comment about what you just said. And I get, the people that say, hey, I'm making my connections offline and that's what's important to me. But then there's a whole other side to this. It's not just that there's a whole other world online. It's how much you can extend what you're doing offline if you combine it with digital and online, if you combine it with social, if you wrap a social shell around everything you're doing. And I think that's important for us as personal brands, as small businesses, and as big brands and big businesses. That so many companies don't understand that, if they're buying ads or they're doing marketing. And, by the way, again, my head's like a Twitter feed. I go back and forth. There was someone on stage yesterday at a Brand Innovators event saying that advertising no longer works. And it happened that they were sponsors, so I didn't get up there and call them out. If they were a brand, I would have gotten up there and called them out because that's bullshit. Okay,
I agree.
advertising does still work. They're just, you need to be doing other things. You need to be thinking other directions. You need to be using it to connect and engage with people. But in many areas, and also remember, there's still something called direct marketing, and direct marketing works. People still open envelopes, believe it or not, and buy shit. So but what I say is that if you take any of that and you combine a social shell around it, you add so much more value. You get so much more reach. You get so much more bang for your buck. So let's have a conversation about that today, Brian. And I'm excited. Just everybody. Brian is in San Diego, as he said. I just got back from Chicago. I was there. Since let's see. I went there on Tuesday. I did a Brand Innovators event yesterday, which was great at Ogilvy, and we had some amazing people. And it closed with a guy named Chris Gardner, who is the guy that who Will Smith played in the movie. And he's just a remarkable guy, inspirational, gave a great talk, left everybody in a great frame of mind. So let's kick this off, man. It's Friday afternoon. It's happy hour. Let's get going.
No, I love it. All right. So I think we have a couple people that are hitting in the queue to jump on camera. So we'll get them on camera here in a minute. But, I think another thing you kind of brought up there that I thought was important is not only advertising, but the idea that we're not living an online or offline life. We're just living, right? And that's what, Tim McDonald put a great graphic on that. It was like, online, offline, and they put living is what you're actually doing. And the idea of authenticity, the idea that people want to jump on and talk to you on video. I mean, we're really talking on video, but we're talking face to face as if we're offline. So I think the discussion really has to shift away from online versus offline and more like how do we connect without limitation.
And I love that. I love what you just said, that we're just living. It's just like when Brian said there's no more B2B, there's no more B2C, there's just H to H. It's just like when I get on stage all the time and I say, stop talking social marketing, mobile marketing. The words mobile, the words social are going to disappear. And it's just going to be marketing. Because everything, all this stuff is coming together. So I love that point, Brian. That's terrific. And I just want to give one quick shout out that I mentioned to you earlier. I do have my TED R&R Cup here. Annabella House came to Vegas to see me speak at the Brand Manage Camp last week. A lot of you guys might have seen her. She was in the background on our blab last week. She was there assisting me. So I just want to give her a shout out. My favorite cup ever. She was awesome. I had an amazing time. I also now have, Brian, got to get you one of these now. I've got this on my bag. It's a no let up keychain.
Nice. I like it.
And I've got it here, and I'm also going to start making up some new no let up bracelets. But we're going to so let's get this rocking. Hey, Jordan.
Oh, I think Jordan's froze.
Jordan is froze. Jordan, how do you hold a pose like that for so long?
Yeah. All right. We'll jump Kevin in here. I think Kevin's unfroze. Jordan, try to refresh your
the mullet's back.
I am unfroze. I just got to say, this is why I absolutely abhor the term IRL. I get it. I understand why people started using it and so forth. But you're real. I'm real. We're all real. This is real life right now. So aside from a few bots and a few, automated trigger things or scheduling, it's real. We're having a real interaction right now. The phone that we use right now is through internet telephony. And yet it's an old phone. Yeah. And we never called that in, or referred to that as in real life or not, in real life. So anyway, I hate that term. I hate in real life. It's all real life. I assume you're real behind the other side unless you prove otherwise. My 2 cents on it.
No, I love it. And Kevin, I think the problem though has been, I think that there were so many people that faked it till they made it, and the idea that they lived an online persona that was not them. And I can tell you, I think not only do I know some of those people, but that's a hell of a lot of work, and kudos for them for putting in all of that work. But unfortunately, that's not going to make it anymore. And that's not what, not only is not what people relate with, but that's the crap that's ruined, industries, brands, and really the disconnection between people and community, because people started hiding behind a keyboard or hiding behind a persona that they couldn't even live up to. Therefore, they spent all of their time hiding at events and never being around and not doing all these things that would have made their lives and relationships better because they weren't the same person. I think that's ultimately what I'm most excited about with everything that we're doing and all these new things, because to me, it just gives us more time for the great people to be great and those fake phonies to be stuck in this land where they either get on board or they just disappear. And that's probably the most exciting thing for me.
And I think what's interesting about what you just said there, Brian, is that highlights the nuance.
Oh, dude.
Uh-oh. No, I'm not frozen.
I think it froze for Ted, not for her.
Okay. what I really like about what you just said, that or the nuance that's there, is that what we have is a nomenclature issue. Because what you're calling real, or that they weren't being real, I would say is authentic. They weren't being transparent and authentic, but they still were a real person. And I think that's the difference that I'm saying is that I think that we need to treat it like, even if somebody is being false or tricksy, or is being non-authentic, or is being, different than what they are in face-to-face, or in in a real what's the word I'm looking for? In person.
In person,
in person.
It's a tough.
That's still real, but they're just being false or not authentic. But then again, like I said, that's the nomenclature issue. That's is that being real or fake? Well, the in real life really came about from gaming, and it really meant that it wasn't online. Right. It was offline. And so I think that's where the nomenclature gets really muddled up.
No, I couldn't agree more. But yeah, thanks so much, Kevin, for jumping in, my friend.
See you guys.
Cheers, my friend.
Dude, have a great weekend.
So Ted, you're wearing your nice "Be Good to People" shirt, so I love that. But
well, by the way, whenever I travel, I wear this shirt. So if you see this shirt on, there's a good bet I was on a plane that day. I do wear it other times, but always when I fly.
And I have mine in my bag. I'll be wearing it tomorrow when I fly, which is that wasn't planned, but I was going to wear it yesterday, and then I'm going to wear it tomorrow on the plane. So the small world, brothers across the world there. So as we have a couple more people jumping on, one of the other things is really I'm not sure what had changed over time that it really is now forcing people to be more real online and offline, but it is an exciting trend. But Ted, you've been pioneering this industry for a long time, especially on the relationship side. I mean, did you struggle? A lot of people saying, "Well, I build great relationships online, but it doesn't work offline," or the vice versa. Or were most people that were kind of understanding your message, did they get the idea that it didn't matter where it was still the same basic principles?
I think it's been kind of an evolution. It started out that people weren't really comfortable online. I mean, it was a new medium, and they'd say, I don't really feel like I know people. And also, the platforms have evolved. There wasn't as much of an ability to share video, to share photos, to share a lot of different moments of your life, to allow certain people access, other people's not access. I mean, all these things, all these upgrades have enhanced it. Plus, it's a matter of people getting comfortable with things. I mean, it's no different than using a credit card online and being willing to pay people peer-to-peer, which is going to happen and is starting to happen because of a comfort level that you don't need a banking institution in the middle of it or anything. So, as far as the tools, I think originally people were much more comfortable face-to-face. Then it was hard online, but then online became a lot easier, because they realized they didn't have to show everything. They didn't have to worry about how they were dressed or what they were doing or what was behind them. Hey, Victoria, how are you? Or, all those kind of things. And now I think what's happening is it's just the evolution of people starting to get comfortable in both places. People starting to realize that expectations are different in different places. That clearly I'm not going to show up at an event in my underwear, but nobody minds if I'm right now I have no pants on, by the way. So, because I have to, but no, I do. But the point I'm making is I think it's a matter of just people getting comfortable. And then here's where I think the transparency thing comes in. I think for a long time, like with any new medium, people thought they could hide things, just like they thought they could hide things from businesses or from brands, or people couldn't get all their data, or we weren't being watched. And all of a sudden they're realizing little by little that if you make personas, and brands talk a lot about personas, but brands use it in a different way. People started using it like creating something they're not. But it's too easy to find out that you're wrong. It's too easy to slip up because we're seeing people in so many places. And that's one of the reasons I think people are just starting to realize that they're just better off being themselves. It's just so much freaking easier than look, acting's a hard career. Everyone thinks it's easy to be an actor. Because all you see are the people that are at the top of their game, and those are the ones you watch. It's like, seeing Mark Cuban and the money he has and says, I wish I had started broadcast.com. Well, you didn't, and you didn't think of it. You weren't lucky enough to sell it before it collapsed. I mean, all these other things happen. So I think that's what a lot of it's about. I think it's comfort level. I think it's us getting used to certain things. I think it's evolution of the platforms. I mean, look at what Blab's done. I mean, overnight we have this platform now that we can connect the way we're connecting. So, Victoria, by the way, we have Casa on here before you, so we're going to talk to Sam.
Yeah. Hi, guys.
You are a lot more attractive than me.
Nazim, right before Brian changed the title from offline to online, I specifically go on Google Plus, having met Mia Voss, that you guys all know very well.
Of course.
We became offline friends, and we were like, and all of a sudden she came over to Italy, and she did the whole tour in Italy, and she stayed at our place, and we became, we connected online and offline. So it's kind of like, whoa. And that's the magic of these platforms and the magic of a whole new trend that's going in regards to meeting people, being networking, and it's in a totally different and across continents. It's I find it to be amazing.
There are people that just lead by example, or people. It's sometimes it's not even an example. It's like you see somebody do something, you say, not that he's doing something better than I am. Like, oh wow, every city Ted's in, somebody reaches out to him, he gets together with him. I can do that. I got a lot of that from my buddy John Andrews. I was working with John for the last bunch of years, and there was not a city we went to, and a lot of it was before we were able to reach out as easy as we could. We'd send out emails saying, hey, we're coming to town, come meet us. John is like the Pied Piper. He doesn't just do it online. He walks down the street and says, hey, what are you doing? Come on, we're having dinner. Let's go. And when you see people do it, and you see how easy it is, and you see how you don't have to worry about who you're inviting. There's a lot of people, I believe, worry too much about who they're bringing together. Picasso like Victoria, and Victoria like Brian, and am I making a great party? Instead of just saying, let's just bring them all together and we'll see what the end result is.
Which goes with what your shirt says, be good to people. It's like just expand the message.
And by the way, if someone's not happy, they're going to leave.
Yeah.
They're going to say, I got to go home. They're going to do something else. Or these days, I love it. I can go sit in the bar by myself, and I'm never by myself because I get online and I start talking to one of you guys. And I can act really cool. Like, I don't need to talk to anybody. I'm cool.
No, I love it.
Thanks a lot.
Picasso, real question. Where are you based in Italy?
I'm in Milan. Italy.
Oh, very nice.
Yes.
Okay, well.
Yeah, Mia came over. She's here for a
place to visit, so hopefully we'll get to meet sometime.
Hey, I keep inviting you guys to come over to Italy, but you guys are busy, running all around the States.
It's just that you guys in Italy don't have the budgets to pay us.
I know. Brian bought that.
You want me coming to Italy? You got to book up.
You brought. Hey, Brian, I'm sorry about the Pirates, man. I was rooting for him.
Yeah, me too. It's it's on the hockey now. Let's go Pens.
Well, I got the Mets. At least I got the Mets tonight.
Yeah, you do have the Mets tonight. So yeah, good luck, my friend. Hey, cheers, John. Thanks for jumping on.
Bye bye.
Right. Hey, Victoria.
Hey guys, how are you?
I'm much better now.
Always more wonderful when I get Victoria on a blab. I can tell you that.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you guys.
So what are you doing?
Pardon?
What's up? What are you doing?
What am I doing? I've had a busy day today. I had to jump in here. Obviously, I love this blab. I've been in every week. It's brilliant, and I love this subject as well. I think like meeting people a couple of weeks ago in New York. I would say like 95% of people were authentic as they've appeared. There were I would literally say that it's quite and that's quite a high number as well. Considering.
Yeah. If you would have asked me before Periscope Summit, I would have said 40%. I would have suspected that there were so many people that were embracing the 15 minutes of fame that existed in live streaming, and that were going to be people that I was going to be disappointed and sad when I met them offline. And I, like Victoria, Victoria was one of the ones that was my most looking forward to, and waiting by the elevator, and she came off, and I got to give a big hug when she arrived in New York. But I like you, Victoria, was shocked at and really shocked, and I said it reaffirmed my belief in humanity, because I felt like there were so many great people. But yeah, go ahead, Victoria. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's fine. I think, this is why I love Brian. He just talks. He's so passionate. I just think the large majority of people were so genuine, and I think sort of since coming back, I think a struggle sometimes with social media particularly is, we post and we kind of put on there how we're feeling and the things that we want to post. But I don't know how you feel, Brian, but there's so much everywhere that says do this way and do this that way and do this the other way, and you think you're not going to appeal to everyone like all the time. So sometimes it almost sort of forces you into like thinking, oh my gosh, am I posting the right thing here? Am I doing the right thing?
You've got to do it your way. This is how I emceed a content marketing summit yesterday, and the way I opened it was, I'm tired of hearing what the right type of content is.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what the right type of content is. The content that achieves the result you're looking to achieve is the right type of content. I don't care if it's in context. I don't care if it's out of context. I don't care if it's on brand, off brand. It doesn't matter to me. If it's achieving the result that you have set for yourself when you started, whatever that result is, and there is no guideline to what that result is. That result can be that you want followers. That result can be that you want engagement. That result can be that you want sales. And if it's sales, and there's nothing wrong with that either, if that's your end goal, then that's how you measure it, and then that's what's good.
Yeah.
So you got to just keep doing stuff, and then you got to see what works for you. And then, another thing I've noticed is that a lot of people think being social means posting a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And then they don't stop to have some conversations. And look, sometimes you have to work hard to create conversations.
Yeah.
In other words, somebody makes a comment, you comment back, and then you've got to be there for it. Because sometimes I'll know that, like, if I say hello to somebody, if I don't jump in right when they post, they're going to be away doing something else.
Yeah.
So I try to pay attention right away for their post so that I can have a conversation while they're still there. It's no different than when my daughter texts me. I know if I wait too long to text her back, she's gone on to something else, and the conversation is not going to happen.
Well, and to kind of build on that, though, I had people yesterday at the event here, and they came up to me, and one of their first things were saying, like, Brian, I love what you're talking about, but how do I stand out from the noise? And here's the thing. If you do exactly what everybody else is doing and everybody is telling you to do, you have no chance of ever standing out from the noise. But if there is only one of you, so if you focus on listening and learning and then incorporating that into who you are, ultimately you're going to stand out no matter what because it represents who you are. And there's only one Brian Fanzo. And to me, that's a hard revelation. But to your point, Victoria, I think we often forget that all of our audiences are just as unique as we are. And if we look at it and says, if someone tells me that I post that you should only post 22 times a day on Twitter as the max, and I average 1,200 a week, what is that saying? Should I go back and listen to them? Well, they don't know my audience. They don't know that I've built that up with my real audience that said, I'm going to tweet a lot. I'm going to provide value. And the day I stop providing the value and the day I stop helping, my audience will let me know or unfollow me, right? And so I think for me, the idea that people sometimes forget, not only that we are each individually unique, and that's the best way to stand out, but ultimately each one of our audiences are unique. Even if we're pitching to the same group and the same, like Brian Kramer was before me on stage, and he delivered his Shareology speech. And then I go on stage and talk about live streaming and think like a fan. And although it's the same group out there, that how they accept us, how they branch is all a different, unique audience. So I couldn't agree more with you that I feel that, unfortunately, we're still living in a world where people feel that they can give you an easy button and that everyone is the same because that easy button can just solve it all. And not only is not anyone the same, but it just doesn't exist that way. So that's a great point.
And you know, I had to literally, I think it was, I'll jump off in a sec because I don't want to take up all the time, but it was like, I can't remember what night it was this week, but I thought, you know what, I need to just switch off and get in the bath because I was that sick of hearing. I had overload, literally overload. And I thought, do you know what, I'm going to post my picture of my bath on Instagram. And I know I'm not meant to because it's not related to my business, but I don't care because I'm getting in the bath and I'm going to enjoy the bath.
Yeah, but it is related to your business because it's related to who you are and people want to know who you are. And Victoria, before we get off, don't forget to email me so I add you to the guest list for the Brand Innovators event.
I think you've done it already. You emailed me.
Look at that. I'm ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Victoria.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me on. Cheers.
So great to see you, Victoria.
Great to see you guys. Thank you.
Hey, Jed.
Hey, what's up, Ted? Good to see you again. What's up, Brian?
Mr. Jed, how are you?
Hey, great. Love this topic, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You can't be authentic and try and fake it till you make it. So that's pretty much common sense. But I think that phrase has also been hijacked a little bit because when I was coming up, fake it till you make it kind of meant if you wanted to attain or be like somebody who you admired, you need to follow in the steps that they took and do what they did, right? And so that's what I took that to mean when I was coming up and looking at my mentors and following their footsteps. But the idea of faking it on social media means something completely different now. So we just got to be aware of, that phrase has kind of been yanked from the common tongue and used differently now.
Well, and I think that goes into the idea that when someone says that they're a successful entrepreneur, and the first thing after that says, like, it's because I work 80 hours a week. I think that's also the idea. It's that same idea that, fake it till you make it has changed, but also what's success? Just because you work 80 hours a week doesn't mean you're successful. And if I want to be a successful entrepreneur, I'm gonna work so smart and so hard that I don't have to work 40 hours a week. Like, let's put this back in perspective. And I think you really brought up a great point, Jed, because I think not only was fake it till you make it something that, but there was this element I think that we also lived in the world that you could, as you were learning and as you were kind of growing what you were doing, that you could almost align and portray something that you hadn't yet kind of arrived to. And I think ultimately the nice part about it now is because we each have the ability to leverage social and digital to tell our story without limitations. No one needs a PR firm to get our story out, our individual story. That I don't think now that even fake it till you make it's needed. It's hey, don't fake it till you make it. Create a digital footprint. Start telling your story in as many avenues as you can. Be real, and guess what? You don't have to fake it till you make it, because that scale of 18 months to get noticed by Ted Rubin now turns into one quality comment on a blab because you told your story, you were easy to find, and now Ted Rubin's engaging you. That window has shrunk so down. So I'm glad you brought that up.
And I love how finally it's okay to be an up and comer. It's okay to be just starting out on your path and sharing your experience. I think that's fantastic, and I think more people should be more willing to share the fact that, hey, they're just getting started here and they're enjoying everything that they're seeing here on social to help them on their way.
I couldn't agree more. Thanks so much, Jed. I appreciate it, my friend. Always.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Owen, my buddy. How's it going, buddy?
What's up, guys? Good to see you guys. How you doing?
Awesome.
I like the look.
Yeah, well, it's the bald guy too, right? So, Owen, update on your health condition. How's everything going, my friend?
Yeah, everything's good. I mean, we just got a scan that showed that I am in remission. So I'm not what they call. I'm pretty sure I'm cancer free. I'm not yet tumor free. There's still a dead tumor inside of me. It's like a wilted raisin right on my aorta. But I've got 6 weeks of radiation that started in a couple weeks, and that's going to take care of that. And I'm back to the healthy lifestyle. So yeah, thank you all for your support and love on that.
Love it, my friend. So I saw you saying some things over there in the comments, and I love to hear your take, because I like what you were kind of going there with some of the fake it side. So let me know. What do you think?
Yeah, so here's a couple thoughts that I had. The fake it till you make it. I think that even when you're at that place where you've made it, I still think there are some, you're in new playing ground. You're above the playing ground you were in before, but you haven't mastered everything. If you had mastered everything, you'd be God, and you're not. So there is still a little bit of faking it happening even after you make it. I agree largely with the philosophy that term is a little outdated in this age of transparency. It's more just like, here's my journey. So I really loved what you had to say there. And that parlays. First, thank you guys, everybody, for saying the great news. That's awesome. I really appreciate you guys showing me that love. The second thing I wanted to talk about was the etiquette part of it. Brian, because you've been following the cancer journey. I've been video blogging a lot of that and really exposing a personal side that I've built a wall up that in my mind I said, no, businesses can't get personal. I broke that wall, and it's been good for everybody. However, going back to the etiquette, I'm going to share with you guys a quick thing that happened. I went to Utah to officiate my sister's wedding. I went the day after chemo. So I'm upstairs having dinner. There's a party in my house. And I excused myself, and I went downstairs, and I lost my lunch. I was alone. No one saw. It was embarrassing. I was in my dad's basement, and I took a picture of myself. I wanted to document it for my kids to show, hey, this actually happened to me. But I didn't talk about that part of it. I didn't video blog that because seeing Owen blow chunks is a little bit too much. So there is an etiquette thing. We want to be transparent. We want to be out loud, but you also don't want to be like necessarily periscoping from the John.
And yesterday, our blab yesterday, Brian Kramer, was the difference between transparency and oversharing, right? And I think that's the ultimate lesson that everyone has to learn.
I think there's another part of this. It all depends on who you are. Not everybody wants to share that stuff. Everybody wants to share everything of their lives. Not everybody wants to share that deep and emotional and personal thing.
Yeah.
And look, when my mom was passing away, I shared it. And there were people that loved it. And I mean, there were people in my family that weren't happy about it. I mean, my older brother was not really happy with everything I was sharing until part of what brought him around was when he saw the way people were reacting to what I was sharing, what they were getting from it. But I also was very careful that he was not real comfortable. So I didn't share a lot about him. I didn't share, things that was happening in his life because that's something personal for him. So I think it's a real personal thing. I mean, look, just like what we do is we try things and then we give advice on what we think works for us and what we think can work for others. And then other people have to decide what works for them. It goes back to the whole thing that I was mentioning earlier about the prognosticators that say this is what you need to be doing with content. Or this is the way to do it. Or, wow, you're having a personal crisis. You need to share it. No, maybe I don't need to share it.
Right.
Or maybe I do. So I think, I think what you did was amazing, Owen, and I did what I could to support you, and I'm real happy for you, and thank you for not sharing the chunks part of it because.
Yeah. Do you think I'll jump off after this? But let me ask you this: do you think that there's also a conditioning that we need to do for our audience to prepare them to see a little bit more? Do you think that there's if I jump into being like, hey, I'm Owen, I'm Mr. Professional, and now here's me, doing something way personal, that it might be a bit much for the audience? So do you guys think that there should be some conditioning happening? I'll jump off. I'd love to hear the answer.
Well, stay here. But again, I think it's an individual thing. I think that, first of all, what's beautiful here is you can come on way too strong one day and the next day say, dude, I got to back off a little bit. People got a little put off. So I don't really think there's one way. My personal take is, yes, I always think it's great to ease people into things. But remember, there's also a lot of, that might be okay because you started that way, but new people who start following you, they're not getting eased in. They're coming into who Owen is right here today.
That's a great point.
You get new followers every day. It's also the reason that I reshare and bring back old content because a lot of new followers have never seen some of those.
Awesome point.
Well, and I think it also comes into the fact, though, that how do you know what you're oversharing or you're doing too much until you're actually doing it? Right. So I think if you're willing to listen to your audience and you know that you're genuinely trying to push, once you kind of get the pushback, and I think something that is way underestimated, and I was sitting on Brian and Courtney's couch last night, and I was talking about it a lot. I think risk versus reward and what you're comfortable about is the essence. I don't want you to do anything that you're not comfortable, and I want you to understand risk versus reward in everything you're doing. And if it's too risky for you, if it's going to jeopardize your business because you're going to start sharing the fact that you have tattoos, and although it's part of your life, the risk is too big for you, don't do it. But for me, the fact that I'm
comfortable with it, right?
Right. Because if you're not comfortable with that, why even take that route? But when you look at me and you say, wait, Brian's bragging on going on stage saying, you know why I'm a millennial and proud about who I am and I'm showing that off. It's because I'm comfortable and it's part of my story. But I don't think everyone should do that. And not only do I not feel everyone should do that, I feel that each person should understand the risk versus reward, understand what they're comfortable with, and then listen to their audience. I mean, if you're just willing to listen, this shit is not hard. But ultimately, too many people will just push, and then go, I don't know what happened. You're like, well, you started to get unfollowed by 80% of your people for the last 2 months.
Or unsubscribed.
Unsubscribe. You should have realized maybe you were doing something wrong and listened instead of waiting too late and then blaming everybody else instead of looking that you didn't listen and it's your own fault.
Let's not forget something else. Do what makes you happy. I'm tired of seeing people say, if you're not stepping outside your comfort zone, you're not living. That's fucking bullshit. Okay? Because for some people, living is finding a comfort zone.
Yeah.
Some people, living is not having to worry about always stepping out. So, for you and me, if Brian says to me, dude, I want to speak on stage, but I'm afraid of it, but I really want to do it. Okay, then you've got to step out of your comfort zone because you've just made a statement. What will make me happy is to get on that stage and start doing it. And I hear that a lot from people. But if someone says, I don't want to ever be asked in my company and have to stand up in people and speak, then don't tell me that you're not going to achieve something in your life, that you're not going to grow if you don't do that. You've got to be looking at what makes you happy. So
to thine own self, be true. Love you guys.
Thanks so much, buddy.
Thank you, Alan.
Hey, Annabella.
Hi, Miss Annabella. How are you?
Hi. How are you?
We're good.
I can't believe last Friday I was sitting behind you. Ted.
I was expecting you to be behind me today. You were behind Ted last week.
I have to tell you that.
No, I don't go around sitting behind people.
You're sitting next to me. No, I love it. I'm glad you jumped on.
I had this. I felt like I had this real support last week. You know, like there was some. I mean, and it was kind of cool because you were behind me just because that was the only way you could be on camera with me. It wasn't. You know, it wasn't any other effect. And just watching while I was talking, you nodding your head and kind of like agreeing. Or when I had to leave and get up, and you kind of took over for me for a few minutes. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
So listen, I know that you enjoyed Vegas, right? That was cool, right?
Wow.
And,
yes.
And your dad loved casinos, right? Didn't you tell me that your dad loved casinos? So that was.
He used to a long time ago. Yeah. He loved Vegas.
Okay.
A lot.
Was this your first time there, though?
Yeah, that was my first time, but it was like amazing, you know. I don't think everybody gets to be with Ted Rubin and go where we went. Definitely.
I think, and there were some great speakers. I saw a picture you posted today of you with Scott Stratton, which was kind of cool.
I'm losing the audio.
I said you posted a picture today of you and Scott Stratton. And he signs a book, so that must have been kind of cool. Scott's a cool guy.
That was everything thanks to you, Ted, you know. I mean, it's amazing. And I totally agree with what you said. And now I understand it because I remember we talked about it in Vegas, that you don't have to be forced outside your comfort zone. I mean, if you want to do it, go ahead and do it. But if you don't and you're happy, and I love your mug, I mean, just... Yeah, I love it.
Annabella bought this for me, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was a little thing, but yeah, do it. Just be happy and be genuine. And when Owen asks if you have to prep someone, I don't know. I follow your guidelines. You know, I am like you are my mentor. You don't know it, but you're my mentor. I listen a lot to what you say. So I think that yes, be genuine, and whoever likes it, and whoever doesn't like it. Pretty much, no?
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on and saying hello, Annabella.
Thanks so much, Annabella.
Okay, bye. Right, Brian. Ted. Bye. Take care.
So Ted, one of the things I think was interesting. You see a lot of the discussion over there, and we're talking online, offline. We're talking relationships being real. You've worked in a wide range of industries and backgrounds. What are some of the industries that you think that really need to wake up and smell the realness and really stop being a disconnected logo and a disconnected, polarizing industry and start empowering your brand? We both believe in employee advocacy. It's something you and I kind of united about early. What industries jump out at you as ones that you think that's just about time?
Well, there are the industries that have bigger challenges than others, like whether it's pharmaceuticals or it's medical field or financial. I just think they have to realize that there's things they can be doing that are not directly related to the things they have to be careful about doing. So, I see some companies. I've done some work recently with Wells Fargo, and they're making some great strides in recognizing that they can be communicating with the people they're looking to reach about topics that are not directly related to how they invest their money or how they use their money, but more about lifestyle, more about things that are going on in our life. So I just recently completed something with them that had to do with, your kids going to college. And obviously it was very relevant to me. My younger daughter just started college. My older one started 2 years ago. But you can have those conversations in every way, shape, or form. How do you apply? How do you, how do you do the paperwork? How do you get loans? What do you send your kids once they start? What conversations do you have with them about being off on their own? These are not things that a compliance department at a financial services company has to worry about. It's things that you can talk about that help you connect with your consumer, let them know that you care about them. And let's look at the medical field. I mean, how about just health and fitness? How about eating better? How about exercise? How about lifestyle vacations? I mean, there's all types of things you can do that you don't have to be talking about the exact topics that make them uncomfortable or that they legitimately have to be careful about talking about. I mean, you have to recognize that they cannot be totally transparent. They can't talk about every drug and every type of thing, and they can't make recommendations online. And one of their challenges is that people push them to do so. It's also the consumer that has to be trained. Like, we cannot have that conversation with you here. Okay, we're going to talk to you about other things related to it, other things related to your life to show you that we're concerned and we want to be there. And that's where I think they have to start looking a lot more and we'll help them. And then I think that, even cosmetics companies aren't having conversations. One of the things I was talking about yesterday is Sprout Social just came out with a report, a research report that says 82.7% of consumer inquiries online are being ignored. 82.7%. And, when you sit in a room with people that are from brands that use Twitter actively, a lot of them, think that that's not a true number. But here's the problem. You find me a brand that's engaging and answering customer inquiries on a platform other than Twitter. Go to Facebook, go to Instagram, look at all the questions, all the inquiries, all the things and they're being totally and utterly ignored. Okay, because they've made a decision, as companies love to do. They love to set up areas of where they do things and where they don't. They love to have, this is what we do on Twitter. If you want to communicate with us, if you want an answer to a question, ask it on Twitter. But those questions are being asked everywhere, and they're not answering them. And to me, that's just a lost opportunity.
What the sad part?
It's a bad thing. It's that you're losing an opportunity because your competitor that does is going to blow by you at some point.
Well, and here's the thing. I think they forget, too. They don't have to have the answer to every single question. They just have to let the people know that they're heard.
Yes.
And I think that's such an underestimated. People will see, hey, I got all these comments, all these things coming in, and I don't have the answer for all of them. But if you let people know that they're actually heard, say, hey, thank you for sending in your message. I appreciate this comment. I'm going to turn it into a ticket, or we don't have the answer today. But the fact that they're heard, allow them to at least know that they're not being ignored.
And that, by the way, that qualifies as an answer.
It does.
That would be coming off the 82.7%. That doesn't mean that you solve the problem online. It means that you actually just responded. I mean, I'll give you an example. I might be repeating myself. I might have mentioned this on another show because it's something that just really bugs me. But I pick out brands online where around things that I'm actually doing. I don't say, hey, I want to target a brand. I want to buy razors. So I happen to be looking at Harry's, or I happen to be looking at Dollar Shave Club. And I start asking them questions on the Facebook page, and I can't get an answer. And and by the way, I'm asking closing questions. I have my finger over the buy button. I'm saying, can you tell me, is this better than so-and-so? Or if I buy this, will it do this? And I can't get an answer. And they just lost me as a potential customer. And
which is, I mean, how sad is it that it's not hard? Like we're not these people, and they blame millennials, right? And I'm doing this. I
blame you for everything, Brian.
Yeah, right. Yeah, damn millennials. But part of the thing with a millennial is the reason a millennial is not afraid to say something, right? And millennials as a whole are very open about what they don't like or when they're not happy. But you also forget they're also extremely vocal when they are happy and when they like something. I mean, the idea of a brand advocate is being a millennial will be a brand advocate just because they know the brand is hearing them, the brand is engaged, and that there's a relationship. And if they're able to do that, they're activating these advocates are something that is done offline and online, which is why, I mean, I don't know how many people heard my rant about Twitter and why I said Twitter, messed up by not hiring me as their CEO. And it was a tongue in cheek, but part of what I really felt like is that people in Twitter, the disconnection between what the Twitter user needs and wants, and the idea that when you're at an event, nobody showed, Ted Rubin has a bajillion Twitter followers. Ted, has anyone ever said, hey, you're going to a brand innovator event? Us at Twitter want to make sure that your team has some swag and some things to help evangelize us. Here's 20 shirts with the hashtag brand innovators on it, Ted. Thank you for being an advocate and pushing Twitter for our audience. Have you ever got that in all of your days working with Twitter?
No, because, still here's the problem. Everybody's still looking for the direct line to revenue. I mean, I've been having a conversation on Facebook, and Brian Carter's been jumping in saying to me, prove it to me. Prove it to me that people are listening when they don't like your page. Prove it to me that they're actually buying. Prove it to me that the people that are engaging with you are buyers. I don't think they are. And, I answer as best I can. And right now, he's got a question hanging out there I haven't answered yet just because I don't want to give him a flip answer. I want to make sure I have time when I'm coming in. But, I have a contention that even if the people who are engaging with you, if you can even prove that the people who engage with your brand on Facebook are not your buyers, what I'm telling you is there's a good bet that the people that engage with them or the people that watch the conversations you're having with them are the buyers. And those are the people that are doing things. And having those conversations in plain sight are creating an ability for people to feel close to your brand, to get answers they need, and then to make that purchase decision. And I also think that a lot of people still, digital has become the spoiler where people think there needs to be a direct line to sales. What major brand out there that has built their brand with what we call branding can draw a direct line to that branding, to that billboard, to that conversation, to that podcast? Oh my God, to the NASCAR cars that they sponsor. Show me the direct line of those hundreds of millions of dollars to Team Manch. I was just with Aon was speaking at Brand Innovators. They are investing hundreds of millions of dollars in the, what is the team? Okay, I'm not a big soccer fan. Manchester in the UK.
Manu, yeah.
Right, and Chevron, and then there are other brands that are investing hundreds of millions of dollars in this. But now they go to social and they go, oh, prove to me there's a direct line. Prove to me that these conversations are actually leading to sales. Well, what they are leading to is a better brand perception, a larger share of voice. A better net promoter score. And any brand that has been using those scores or looking at those things over time knows the way conversation, knows the way mentions, knows the way impressions affects those scores. And then they know when those, they can actually, a lot of those guys can track from the increase in share of voice, from the increase in net promoter score or decrease, a change in sales and a change in long-term prospects for their company. And there's where we really have to put in the time and money if you need to have that direct tracking. Okay, Brian, I've lost you. Am I frozen? Are you? No volume.
I muted myself. Because there was a loud hallway here for a minute.
Okay.
No, but I actually think that was a really important point, because not only, I don't like the idea of, saying that you have to always prove ROI or prove the direct revenue, but if someone's asking for it, you should be prepared to figure out or at least understand what your answer to that is, right? And I have like that silly thing, I call screenshot awesomeness. And it just means like every great interaction that happens with your brand between you and your customer, your client, or your potential clients is you should screenshot and document every one of those small wins. When someone says, hey, I didn't know you guys were going to the event, I'm going to let one of my sales guys know to go to that event because I didn't know your brand was there. If you document all of those wins all across the way, and they might seem small and minute at the beginning, but ultimately at the end, when someone comes to you and says, what the hell have you been doing on social for 60 days as a brand? You can say, well, here, look at all these engagements. And then the person will be like, wait a second, those two people are now our biggest clients. That relationship started because of a small thing like you posting, letting you know that your brand or your employee was at an event. So I think oftentimes we forget that documenting and also proving that line to revenue is not only important, but it's something that just because they're asking for it doesn't mean they don't get what you're trying to do.
Absolutely. We have anybody else that wants to jump in here before we before we run out of time?
Let's see. Yep. Oh, here we go. We have Dr. C.S.
C.S. Christopher Stewart.
How's it going, Christopher Stewart?
Jawohl. Natürlich.
How are you, Christopher Stewart?
Christopher Stewart. Stewart's my dad's name, so 2 dogs in the house. So I was noticing when you're talking about brands and not getting it, I had some good experiences, and Brian saw that, with TD Ameritrade and National Rental Car. Anybody who is out there and they hear a complaint when they really have a great social team in place, it's such a different experience than having people ignore you. And that ignoring someone really rubs me the wrong way to the point where I may just disconnect with their brand completely. And I'm no millennial. So,
well, right. I also think that another thing that is almost difficult to measure and is happening every day is traditional word of mouth. I mean, and not only that, how about these conversations we're having right here? There's no measurement of what we're doing here when we're talking about brands, when we're talking about experiences we've had with companies that have listened to us or just responded or just given us an answer. And by the way, I get no's all the time, and that's okay. What pisses me off is when I don't hear back. Yeah. It's okay to say no to me. You know the expression, if you don't ask, you don't get. A lot of the times, a lot of us ask, and we don't expect to get. We just know that we might as well ask. I mean, maybe we can get upgraded. Maybe, what pisses me off is when I watch some of these guys who ask for no get. Like, how dare you not give me an upgrade? Like, dude, I was with someone recently and he asked for a favor and they said no, and it was a favor. It was an extra. And then he got angry, and going to say, well, you know what? I'm going to badmouth you. I'm going to dish you guys. Like, I could have said good things on social. Now I'm going to say bad things. And the person's looking at him like, all I did was say, no, I can't give you an extra. Not no, you can't have what we promised. Not no, you can't have what you had already reserved. But you go as a guy, I think most people recognize that. They say, okay, well, thanks. That's a special thing, and we have to start thinking of it that way. So, Chris, where are you, man?
Coronado, California, right across from San Diego. I live on the island. Come to the island.
Love Coronado. I worked for the Department of Defense. I worked over there for a little bit with the military side. Great, beautiful area for sure.
So four blocks from the beach. But I'll tell you, when they get to sensitive information, that's a real interesting thing. Because I know with finances, they'll come back and forth with you. Send us a private message, send us an email. But at the same time, in the healthcare profession, wow, social media is just a land full of landmines. I mean,
it is.
It's like I said, totally, it's a landmine. And I think what a big thing companies have to do is they have to do a lot of the education to people of this is what we can talk about, this is what we can't, so that they're like not paying attention or they're not. And look, it's hard because they've got to set those guidelines. They've got to take the time. You know, I just visited Zappos when I was in Vegas last week, and one of the things I love the most about them, and there's a lot of things to love about their business, but that the people that work there are empowered to speak to people who have problems for as long as it takes, even if it's irrelevant to the business. And you speak to every customer experience and customer service person there, and they all have the stories of the person they've talked to for 3 hours, for 4 hours. They talked to the woman about her cats. They talked about their vacation because they're empowered to have those kind of conversations because they have done the math. They do know that word spreads, that people say, oh my God, look at what I did. And by the way, they track those things. If Chris calls them 5 days in a row to talk to him about for 3 hours about his cats, you know, at some point they're going to cut it off. But well, sorry about that, Chris. I didn't want to imply that you're.
Cats need shoes too, I guess. But I'm just glad that when Amazon bought them, they didn't change the culture.
No. But I got to tell you what's more important. That's because Zappos stood up and said, we're not going to let our culture change. And that's a great point. It's one of the things I said when I was walking throughout the place, how cool it is that they're this very successful business, that they're owned by the most successful e-commerce company, and that they haven't changed their culture. You know, and I got to tell you, in the reverse, you have to give credit to Amazon for not saying, okay, we want to be like Zappos, because that's not necessarily what works for them.
Right. Well, I know coming from Washington, D.C. to Coronado, I mean, we've got Jeff Bezos buying the Washington Post, so I'm going to be interested to see how the editorial page changes over time.
Yeah, I'm a big Bezos fan. But, Chris, thanks for joining us, man.
Okay, thanks so much. Have a good weekend.
Got it. You too.
All right, so Ted, some of the discussion on the side I thought was really interesting in the sense where people were really, there was some conversation about, some people are afraid, Brian McFarland was talking about, some brands are afraid because they feel social media is out of control for them and it's too hard to manage. And then someone else was bringing up, and I thought it was a great point, Jen was bringing up the idea that some brands are strategically looking at social media for only broadcasting, and that their strategy and philosophy and goals for social media are to do just that. And should they be kind of looked at as ones, because for me, my answer to that was really simple, in the idea that they're forgetting the element that it's social media, not just media or not just broadcasting, but ultimately, if that's their strategy, that's their goal, and that's their end game, it's an education problem. Then it's not a social media or technology problem. They have to educate their market and their audience and let them know where they will engage, where they will provide that other things. And I think oftentimes they just broadcast and then say, well, we were only broadcasting. Well, how the hell was I supposed to know that? Yeah. And for me, you're ignoring me. I don't care what your strategy was. If I don't know what your strategy was, it comes across as ignoring.
Ryan, that's a great point. I was having this conversation somewhere else, and one of the points I made is that, like someone was saying the same exact thing. Well, what if a company doesn't want to engage? What if that's just not something that's in their plan or something they want to do? And, I had kind of focused a little bit more on the point that's another side of it, is that what they were saying was, well, we're not going to create the conversation. Well, the conversation is happening without you then. That's what you also have to recognize. But by the way, that's okay. As long as you do the analysis, you take the time and you say, it's okay if that conversation is going on without us. But don't think the conversation is not happening because you're not a part of it, because you're not empowering it. It's still happening. You're just not a part of it. But I also love what you just said, and it goes back to what I was just talking about healthcare. It's you. If you're not going to communicate and you're on social platforms, then you have to let people know that. And look, it can be as simple as putting it in your bio. I do not respond. I have no interest in responding. I mean, there's ways to say it better and worse, but make it clear to people. That's a really, really important point.
And it's funny also because people will say like, hey, I posted on my website that we don't engage on Facebook. Well, last time I checked, the idea before where they have to come find me to be educated is wrong. You have to go where your audience is and have the conversation and support that community and educate them there. And I think that strategy of the idea of, well, we put it on a billboard, and just because they drove by and were actually paying attention to the road and weren't looking up in the sky at the billboard, it's not our fault. Well, no, it is your fault, because if you're not going where your audience is and at least educating them there, I think that's the essence of a brand that is disconnected. And what the other problem on that is,
when you walk into a store, like if the guy behind the counter is standing there, but sometimes there's a sign that says, this person doesn't ask questions, or this is not the information booth, and you need to go to the information booth to get this. Then you give them the information they need. And Jen just jumped in with something. She said there are a lot of brands that are just using social media to listen. That's fine, but then you have to be careful about what you're doing with your publicly facing pages. So if you're in there just to listen, that's great. Then don't have a page. Then
my favorite brand in the whole, my favorite brand in the whole world, and it's named after a fruit. You know, they use social only for listening, right? There is no what?
Everyone knows that you can't get through to Apple that way.
Right. And last time I checked, I've never tweeted at Apple and said, crap, they're not listening, or crap, they didn't engage me, because guess what? They've educated me to know that I go to a Genius bar and talk to and that's kind of the difference. And I don't ever like using Apple as an example, because sometimes people kind of assume things because we're not all Apple. But I think if you're a small business and you don't have the time to engage, or you can't be on every platform, you don't need to be on every platform. You need to listen where your audience is, and then educate and engage when you can, where you can, and then try to shift the conversation to where you do prefer to engage. But it starts by you going to them, not you trying to force them over to you. And that's, nobody wants to be forced onto their own channel.
Part of the problem has come from the quote unquote experts who go into companies and say, you have to be everywhere. Okay, we're starting your social media program. We're going to open up an Instagram account, a Twitter account, a Facebook account, a YouTube account, a Pinterest account, and they're not prepared to man those accounts. They don't either have the budgets for it, the people for it, the staffing for it, the culture for it, the DNA for it. The real answer should be, you shouldn't be there. And there's nothing wrong with not being there. But what you can't be, in other words, I can't complain. I can't reach out to somebody's Twitter handle if they don't have a Twitter handle. If they don't have something, then like you said, then I can't go and say, you're not listening to me here. Well, there's a reason. We don't have time to be there. It's like, would I walk into a Sears and scream, Walmart, you're not listening to me? No, of course not. So, I think that, again, great point about there are companies that are not prepared or not ready or don't even want to do it. But then what they have to do is stop listening to people that say they have to be there. They have to have a page, and then nothing happens there. That's where the real problems are going on.
Well, isn't that sad though that they're listening to they actually are listening. They're just listening to the wrong side. They're listening to people that are telling them what to do when they don't know their audience. If they just decide to listen to their customer and their audience, they can make that decision pretty easily where to spend their time. Yet they're listening to someone that maybe hasn't taken the time, or I think that's, to me, is a whole other soapbox for a whole other era, where I feel like the reason that there's so many brands bad at Twitter is partially to blame with the fact that there is no baseline for us to know who is great at educating a brand on Twitter. And there's a lot of crappy agencies and a lot of crappy leaders out there that have educated these brands on using Twitter the wrong way, that have turned them off. Therefore, it's hurt us on the platform and us as the audience and us as a customer of those brands. And I ultimately blame Twitter, because Twitter does not have a train the trainer program or something that would actually certify a Twitter person that would say, hey, brands, I know Twitter is hard and it's confusing and it's not a natural platform for anybody. Like, go to these people that have this verified stamp next to their name that says they're a Twitter certified person that we verified, right? That to me comes this whole full circle of this idea that when you're listening to something, you have to do your due diligence, and you also have to understand, do they know your audience? And because when someone asks you, Ted, or someone asks me, they say, hey, Brian, what tool is best for social media? Any person that gives them an answer without asking them, what's your business, what's your audience, and what's your goals? Anyone who answers that question, you're asking the wrong freaking person, because that person is just spouting crap and not listening and actually providing you the value you need.
I saw there's two quotes. By the way, I was just trying to type and talk at the same time, and I just can't do that shit. I'm going to stop typing. There's two things I want to address. Sean jumped in and just said, Twitter noise, lots of noise, blah, blah, blah. I hear this shit all the time. It's noise if you let it be noise. It's like anything else. There's a lot of goddamn noise in New York City. And if all you do is focus on the sirens and the horns and the other shit, then you're not going to be able to hear a word of the person standing next to you and what they're saying. If you focus on the people you want to hear, if you get past, you can easily bypass the noise. It's so easy. There are tools to do that. So that's number one. I also want to address what Jen said. And she just answered me, and I answered her, and I got to disagree
Alert
with
from
her.
System UI server.
Okay, set
low
up
battery.
System UI server, low battery. I got a low fucking battery. I just want to jump in here. Jen keeps saying, companies don't have budgets, companies don't have people. Well, then start empowering your employees who are in other jobs to do these things. And by the way, sometimes teams are too lean for that. I don't believe that. Okay. I believe there's always somebody that's available that can start communicating or paying attention or watching socially. And the reason it's too lean is because you're not empowering them the right way. You're telling them they can't be on Facebook. You're blocking their channels. You're telling them they can't do two things at once. You're telling them you don't want them playing on Facebook when actually they can be learning on Facebook. There is absolutely a way in every single company out there to empower people within the people that are working for you to do something. And if I want to tell you something, I don't care if you're a one-man company, then do it at night. Do it on the road. Do it in between things. Jump in and start paying attention. No, you're not going to have a Fortune 500 presence. You're not going to do it the way maybe Brian and I do it. You're going to do it in a way that you start learning, because as your company grows, you will be able to train people. You will be able to have people. You can hire students to do certain things. I mean, there's a lot of college kids looking to learn and be in places, and you don't give them the keys. You let them help you. By the way, I've got to run and get some power, so I'll be right back.
Well, hey, I think we're going to wrap up anyhow. I think we're right at that. We're right at that 1 hour. So
it's dropping from like 12 to 10 to 8. Okay, so I want to do a little bitch to Apple. Why do the batteries start running out so fast a year after you have your new laptop? Like, come on, guys.
It drives me crazy too, my friend. And actually, mine has 9%. So I'm right there with you. We are both riding that train. But no, I love the topic. I love the conversation, and I'm glad to see like a lot of this was kind of collaborative. And really, I think the idea here is things are changing, times are changing, and it's about time that people look at online and offline just as their one essence of living, and knowing that they have to embrace that for not only social media but customer service, but empowering their people. And I think Ted and I could do a show every single day of every week talking about employee advocacy and the idea of trust, and brands don't trust the employees that they're paying paychecks with and that are building the company. But I think ultimately where this conversation I thought was really, really awesome is that so many people are seeing that, and I think here's my call to action is celebrate the brands that are doing it well. So if you guys know brands that are doing great customer service, maybe they don't even have a great product, but they always engage you, they're always listening, celebrate them. Let them know. Post on Twitter and say, hey, this is a great brand that's reached out and it helped solve my problem, or at least answer me. Because how do we let the other brands know that this is valuable if we don't go out there and celebrate the wins as much as that we bitch about the loss?
And you know what? Let's take that a step further. I mean, I left Lowe's Hotels today. They didn't do anything special for me when I was there this trip. I got chocolate on my pillow. I think we all get that, right? I even had to call down because there was food sitting in the hallway for like an extra day that should have been taken away. But when I left, I had basically had a nice trip. I love the pool. They have this. So what did I do? I sent out a tweet that said, hey, Lowe's Hotels, thanks for a great few days. Love the pool. I'll be back. You can do that a lot. Instead of just complaining or when you have a problem, tell people when you have a good experience. Tell them when you like somebody behind the counter. I do this all the time with flight attendants. Oh, American Airlines, love the crew on flight 380 today. They went above and beyond. Let them know. Shout them out. Stop just waiting for bad times. Let's support people. Let's tell them when they're doing something right. Brian, man, I fucking love you, dude.
Love you too, my friend.
We're going to find ourselves in the same city again soon. And
yes, sir.
Sorry it wasn't in New York a couple of weeks ago. Thanks everybody for joining us here today. And just, look, I say this over and over again. There's two things I want to leave you with. One is a brand or a business. A brand is what a person or a business does. A reputation is what people remember. Build your reputation. Stop worrying about exactly it is what you do. And relationships are like muscle tissue. The more you engage them, the stronger and more valuable they become. The more you talk to people, the more you engage with them, the more you just tweet with them, the more you just pop in one morning and say, hey, Brian, man, hope you have a great day. You don't have to get a reply. It's just letting somebody know that you care about them. So no let up, everybody.
Cheers. No let up. See you guys next week.
Brian, say hello to my buddies out there and give Kramer a big hug for me.
I will. Mr. Dan Pornalo, who's putting on C2SV, just walked by and he said, "Tell Ted I said hi." So
awesome, man. Send my best to everybody, and tell Brian that now that he's looking so slim, he's got to get some clothes that fit.
I will let him know.